Good afternoon, good evening. It all depends on your locations. So today we have some beautiful stuffs to reflect on as it affects us. If you still remember, in 2012, during the time of Goodluck Jonathan, then we have all kinds of moves that the president, as at that time, was trying to move on the issue of the subsidy. So when there was these people who were strictly against it. So let me just refresh your memory with some of them. So maybe that will be the best way to go about this whole thing. So it's not just through talking, as you know. So in Nigeria, we forget things too quickly sometimes. So it's always good to refresh your memories so that you know how things and how times fly sometimes. Because when you are in power, sometimes some people don't seem to think that they will ever have that same opportunity. So Tinubu was one of them, as at that time, who was championing the downfall of the government of the day as at that time. So, but let's see
The biggest
what's
headline in
happening
Nigeria
now.
on Monday was the inauguration of the new president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. By Tuesday, the biggest headline was a threefold jump in petrol prices and queues at the gas stations as millions of Nigerians now head into the first weekend in the new month. There are yet unanswered questions about the path ahead for the country's main source of energy. So I'm turning down to one of the
So here was the demonstration.
January 1st, 2012 was Nigeria's first real attempt at taming the monster fuel subsidy. Like wildfire under a dry weather condition, dissenting voices grew and soon a campground was sighted at the Ganifa Park in Ajota, Lagos State.
So you remember that day? That was a demonstration that was carried out, and championed by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Buhari himself, and the APC with their broom, with their winch broom, all over the places, waving, at the that's Gani Fawemi State Park there in Lagos, in Ojota. That was the area where they had this demonstration. You can see. So this thing was championed by the APC then, trying to bring down the government of the day, not knowing that maybe one day to get to their turn. So the same Buhari that was championing this thing, and Buhari and Tinubu then came to power later, and like all of a sudden, then when it comes to the subsidy issue, they were running away from it. He never wanted to even address it till for the past 8 years till he left. Now all of a sudden, the Tinubu came on board, and now it's about the same subsidy issue again. And now he said he want to pull out the subsidy, you know, the subsidy that has already been paid for till the end of June, and now we are just in May. So they want to rob us of, let's say, 2 months of pay that the government has already paid for May and June subsidy. So now all of a sudden, then he came out during his own inauguration, and he made that speech, knowing fully well that that speech will spark or generate some reactions. It's not like I'm against any subsidy remover. I'm not against it, but for you to remove oil subsidy from a country like Nigeria, then first there are things that have to be in place. First, those things has to be put in place first. Because something have to cushion, the reaction of the market forces, etc. Because actually, if you remove the oil subsidy, definitely the prices will skyrocket. So who is going to benefit from all this whole thing? At the end of the day, it's still the same people that has been exploiting Nigeria, and even with the subsidy as well. You put the subsidy there also. Who are the people also making a huge amount of money from this whole thing? Because at the end of the day, Nigeria will subsidize its petroleum resources or fuel and diesel and what have you. Then for its citizens, then the big shots, people like Dangote and Coast, then will be smuggling out the same fuel to other countries, within the Western African axis, and selling them at double digit. So do you understand what I'm talking about now? So Nigeria will subsidize the oil for its citizens, and yeah, this oil will come into Nigeria somehow. The oil will also leave Nigeria through the back door to another country like Benin Republic, Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, etc. Or even Sudan, etc. to be sold or to be resold for double the amount of money that is being sold in Nigeria because the Nigeria government has already subsidized it. So it's like subsidizing the oil, the fuel that is supposed to be for Nigerians, and the same fuel is going out of Nigeria. So which means you are subsidizing the same fuel for all other neighboring countries within the Western Africa. So that is the thing that has been happening ever since. So now I think if it's the right time to subsidize this whole I mean to remove the subsidy from this whole thing, first there are things that have to be in place, and those things that you have to use to cushion the effect of this whole thing have to be placed, have to be deliberately, guided to make sure that these things are not just a mercy, from the government of the day. Because what is so important now is that the same people that have fought against this whole removal of the subsidy are the same people now trying to remove the subsidy, even as at when they are not supposed to do it. Because if it's supposed to remove the subsidy, then it's supposed to be, something that has to be like from July, afterward. Before then, things have to be fixed. It's not like Nigeria don't have refineries. We have refineries. So if not for the corruption that has been taking place all this while, definitely the the subsidy will have at least benefited, the Nigerian populace. You understand? So because you can just imagine that the okay Nigeria have no stable electricity supply and stuff like that, and yet you are saying that the ordinary people that have been able to at least do that for themselves or try to power their own energy source with fuel and things, we now have to pay triple of what they've been paying ever since. So I wouldn't know what is going to happen, but I can imagine how it's going to feel like, because first of all, there are no jobs, and secondly, you need electricity to generate more jobs. It's not just about the convenience of life and things like that you need electricity for, because especially in a country like Nigeria, so you need electricity for a whole lot of things, you know. So you need it for normally for the energy, and you need it generally for 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 the well-being and generation of jobs and things like that. So the industries also they also need energy to function and do the right thing. So I'm being disturbed by some calls that are coming in right now. So that is it. So, but for now, let me just take you on this and see if it will just refresh your memory a bit.
Fast forward to 2015, at the beginning of the immediate past administration of the now former President Muhammad Buhari, many have thought
See?
it will be removed since he has never been a fan of it and had spoken out against it severally. 8 years on the saddle, monies were consistently appropriated for subsidy. In February of this year, the GCO NMPC Malam Mele Kyari announced that the country was spending about 400 billion naira on fuel subsidy monthly.
But we'll be there.
While that number swelled, President Buhari had on the 16th of August 2021 signed the Petroleum Industry Bill into law, but okayed the suspension of a part of the PIA on subsidy removal. He would later forward an amended PIA bill to the legislative arm, proposing 18 months extension for the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act. 18 months will expire June 1st, 2023, and now, just as he promised during his campaigns, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has this to say.
The budget that I've glimpsed before I assume office and what I've heard is that no provision is there for fuel subsidy. The first subsidy is gone.
So, as you can see, so like he said, his first subsidy is gone. So, that is just another awakening for you to know what the hell is going on. So that is what he plans to do. So the point is, if you want the first subsidy to go, then you have to do it properly.
The industry professionals and the group CEO at Shoreline Energy International, Kola Karim, for his insight. It's a Friday evening, so I appreciate making time to be here when you should just be relaxing. Again, so we've got these headlines for the week, but then give me your first word on the full subsidy removal. I'm sure you're not surprised because you're an industry person. This is a total deregulation of the downstream sector, yes or no?
It is. The president was emphatic in his speech, acceptance speech, and it's very clear that it's gone. So this is complete deregulation.
So that is his own view. Then let me take you on another one. So that we know exactly what's happening here, then we know how to address it as well. So you see, let me see what he has to say here again. It's always on the same issue.
The first time that a man entering it too. What is it? But we have to push on. We have to make the decision that affects all of us.
So, making decisions that affects every one of us.
To speak at this inauguration lecture for the incoming president of Nigeria. It is such a great honor to share my views and perspectives after the wonderful speech that has been given by my very dear friend and brother, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, as our nation gets ready to have a passing of the baton between His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari and the incoming president, His Excellency Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu. It is your turn. I wish to congratulate you, Mr. President, for your stewardship against difficulties of our nation for the past 8 years. And thank you most sincerely, Mr. President, for your support for me as president of the African Development Bank. All living Nigerians today and many generations to come will be long gone by then. We must therefore change this and change it decisively. Nigeria must rely more on the private sector for infrastructure development to reduce the fiscal burdens on the shoulders of government. Your Excellencies, much can be done to raise tax revenue, as tax to GDP ratio in Nigeria is still low. This must include improving tax collection, tax administration, but moving from tax exemption to tax redemption, ensuring that multinational companies pay appropriate royalties and taxes, and that leakages in tax collection are closed. However, simply raising taxes is not enough, as many question the value of paying taxes. hence a high level of tax avoidance. Many citizens provide their own electricity, sink their own boreholes to get access to water, repair their roads in their neighborhoods and in their towns. These are essentially high implicit taxes. Nigerians, therefore, today pay the highest implicit taxes in the world. Governments need to ensure effective social contracts by delivering quality public services. It is not the amount collected, it is how it is spent and what it's delivered. Nations that grow better, they run effective governments that assure social contracts with their citizens. Your Excellencies, we must rebalance the structure and performance of the economy. A very common refrain in Nigeria with every successive government is, we need to diversify the economy. But is it really so? The economy of Nigeria is one of the most diversified in Africa, with the oil sector accounting for only 15% of the GDP, and 85% is accounted for by other sectors. Nigeria's challenge is not diversification. Nigeria's challenge is revenue concentration. And that is because the oil sector accounts for 75.4% of export revenue and 50% of all government revenue. The solution, therefore, is to unlock the bottlenecks that are hampering the 85% of the economy. These include low productivity, very poor infrastructure and logistics, despite gains being made, epileptic power supply, inadequate access to finance for small and medium-sized enterprises. Nigeria must also shift away from just relying on import substitution to export-focused industrialization. No team in soccer can ever win by playing defense. Every team that wins in soccer, they win by playing offense. When you do export-led industrialization, that's offense. That's how economics will grow, and that's how we will thrive. Your Excellency.
So, as you just heard from, from Additional himself, he has already tried to, he made the point very clear that subsidy removal, is a very good thing to do. But the issue here is that doing it alone does not solve the problem. So you have to tackle every other thing that goes with it. So that's so he made some points very clear there as to how you generate taxes and what you use them for. It's not about taxing everybody, 200%, 400%, every now and then. Because like in Nigeria, everything is taxed either by the local government council, you are taxed by the market, which is controlled by the local government council and stuff like that, or even by some autonomous bodies, within the market space, etc. Just for you to trade, you know. So the government does not subsidize anything as far as the food that you eat is concerned. If at all they do, it doesn't get to the people. Rather, it gets to those people who are controlling the market or who are controlling some other association within the market space, etc. So now in Nigeria we generate its own electricity, to power its own energy in its own house, and at the same time pay some some useless taxes here and there. So this at the same time still get bills from NEPA, from the energy holding companies. Pay your house rent. You not pay your house rent. You not pay. You not pay for some other little amenities. You're not even eating. You not. I mean, transportation to work and things like that. Then you start to wonder what the hell is going on here. So this is what it has been all this while. But the people are just be struggling, and the people are actually not asking for too much. The only thing that they're asking for is just the basics. There are no rules, in most of these communities that we are talking about here. Ordinary graded roads, you don't find it. So if the rain falls, sometimes you have to swim inside the water to get to your houses and stuff. So lack of drainages and stuff. These are things that actually you don't actually need technology for, or need high grade technology for, that you can actually do. So because even in the villages, people do drainages on their own, and yet things are working fine. So, but when government is involved, sometimes, especially in most of these cities, then you start to see that things are either intentionally made to be worse for the people, just to make the people suffer, or that the government just does this thing because they want to be able to use those things, to increase the budget, within their own vicinities and stuff like that for their local government and stuff. But yet, the money that is being allocated to those communities are not invested into those communities or to develop those communities. So that is when you start to wonder what the hell is going on. So because it's not like the federal government actually have to do every other thing. There are some basic things that the federal government have to do for the states and local governments to function and function well without any, without much ado and stuff. So that is it. So these people they can speak grammar from nothing else tomorrow, and at the same time, this same grammar has been spoken 20 years ago. The same grammar has been repeated in 2012. So when Jonathan was trying to do these things, as far as the subsidy removal is concerned and stuff, it was the same Buhari and Tinubu and their gangs that came out, to try to mobilize. If you still remember, that was the video clip I just showed you just now, about that January of 2012, So that is the kind of country that we found ourselves. And sometimes, I start to actually wonder what the hell is actually going on. So, and who is the Stephen Ho? So, but let me just maybe rewind the video again and take you back. Maybe you remember how this whole thing went as at that time. Let me see. Which one is this? This one is the inaugural what? No, that's not what I want. So let me take you on that one. Okay, this is the one. This is the one. So here is it.
January 1st, 2012 was Nigeria's
January
first
1st,
real attempt at
2012.
taming the monster for subsidy.
So if you remember those faces, like this lady here is, Udumakin, etc. She was in support of this whole thing as at that time. Then when you look here to your left, then you see this musician. I think Aide, or I don't know if his name is, so but is that same musician that is going around with Tinubu, you know, this time around. Let me see if he's here also. You can see him here. So let me see.
Great Nigerian people. Great Nigerian people. Greatest of the greatest of the greatest of
Okay, that's Wasiu. Yes, it's Wasiu. So that's the guy. He
the
was.
greatest of the greatest Nigerian youth. It is a good and great thing to see many of you present here this.
So they were all, involved in this gang up, with his fan base and stuff like that, and personality. So he was actually used to galvanize, and rally the people around himself. Then White Tinubu and the rest follow. So later they went to Abuja, to show themselves. So that was how the whole thing started. And in fact, they wanted to shut the country down, with that protest as at that time, and they did a lot of things and tried to shook, in fact, they shook Jonathan, in his seat as at that time. They wanted to rock him out, so but at the end of the and people like, let's say, what do you call Bakari, Bakari and this other Mafalana, and so many other great Nigerians. In fact, they were all in for this, for this protest in order to drag Jonathan down, simply because he was the first Nigerian president to have ever attempted, to pull out this subsidy monster that the rich or the rich people were using to drain Nigeria, of its resources. And at the same time, Nigerians were suffering for it. To Mr. Okujo, then they now thought, okay, I think it would be better to just remove this thing completely and use the money that we are using, to do things, physical investment, on infrastructure that we cannot see because actually they are not feeling it, they are not seeing it, because the fuel will come in at the same time the fuel will leave a long queue all over, all over the cities. That is, I mean, queue at the filling station and stuff like that. For lack of fuel, and at the same time, because there's shortage of fuel and queues, shortage of fuel, in the filling stations, definitely, what do you expect? Then the price of this commodity will go up. You know, so these are the things that he was trying to avoid then, so that instead of these things to be, to be going on in circle, year in year out and stuff like that. So they knowing what actually was behind this whole thing, that this whole big, multinationals, within the Nigeria context, and all these big companies and oil contractors, etc., are the ones who are actually behind this whole thing. That's why sometimes you have to question all these so-called uh, companies such as Dangote and Co. and stuff like that. You have to ask, how do they actually make their money? And how come they became a monopoly in what they have and what they now claim to, you know, to 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 become the all and all in such an area. And now all of a sudden Buhari has come to sell. It's like selling Nigeria, like selling 40% of Nigeria now to Dangote. You know, so because he couldn't just do it by just making him a blank monopoly. So it's like sold. It's like sold. Yeah, it must have sold like let's say a part of the Nigeria, uh, let's say, energy sector to Dangote as it is right now. So, and now they have just done that. So, but only God knows what their plans are, because as it seems, as it looks to me, to my own understanding, this is not it's just a camouflage, for us to think that it's a Nigerian company and stuff. But the Nigerian company, is it for the interest of the Nigerian people? And if it's a Nigerian company, is it a public, you know, is it a public company or a private company? Too, which means it's a private company, so the whole power, lies on the hands of one man, from the north, that doesn't own or have, you know, anything that have to do with the Nigeria Petroleum, you know, source of, you know, so as a source to start with. So when Southerners were there, busy trying to do their own thing, they were frustrated out of the whole thing, and now all of a sudden a Northerner is the one now holding Nigeria oil sector, 40% of Nigeria oil sector, if not 60%, in his own hand. So I'm still waiting for other Southerners to react to this whole thing, because that was how um, Ibeto Cement, you know, was pushed out of the cement industry. If you still remember, back the days during the Obasanjo era, then Dangote was handed the whole thing. Why they were blackmailing Imbeto as at that time, that Imbeto was doing this and that, to take the cement prices up. Why the that is the prices of the cement of Ibeto as at that time was even much lower than the rest. They pushed him out because they saw him like a big competitor, like a big threat to their own destiny. Now all of a sudden, then Dangote Cement has taken over and become a monopoly over the cement industry. And ever since then, the cement price has been what? Skyrocket. The prices have been skyrocketing. It has never come down. But when Ibeto Cement was there, he was there as a pure competitor to this Lafarge Cement and what do you call it, Dangote Cement and what have you. So only God knows if that Lafarge Cement is actually uh, another competitor, in this area, or maybe it was just there as a small screen. Because if not so, so Where has Ibeto Smith gone? How come the federal government was so in the neck of the Imbeto Smith to the extent that up to now they drown the Imbeto Smith, and ever since they had Imbeto Smith has not been able to rise, to rise up. The same thing happened to another tomatoes company, you know, that was also run by the one other guy like that from the southeast as well. The same thing happened. The same thing, the Dangote and Dangote stuff, they came in there. Then the next thing, the federal government and this company started having problems. The man have to run away. So he took his company and ran to Ghana because it was becoming too expensive for him to actually, run his functions and activities in Nigeria. So he ran to Ghana. The man is operating and doing fine in Ghana. So one of these days, maybe I'll do some research on that and bring you, his actual name and stuff like that. So this Dangote thing is becoming too much in Nigeria. I think this Dangote thing has to be broken down, into pieces, or it has to be sold to the public, general public, so that we will know that it's Nigerian people that actually own it, instead of one man called Dangote that nobody knows his tax record, that nobody actually know his record of anything, than just claiming to be the richest man in Africa and stuff like that. That's all we do about him. Dangote, the richest man in Africa, just like that. And the next thing, the sponsoring all the politicians and stuff like that. Now he just sponsored another APC presidential candidate in the rank of Ahmed Tinubu to become the president. So that's what they do. So they are strangulating all of us, strangulating Nigerians, strangulating every other person, and now they are strangulating the economy as well and monopolizing everything else. So this thing should not be encouraged. So another look at this whole thing again, for your memory.
This morning, as you can see, and I'm sure they can also see us in Abuja. We do not have broken bottles, neither comes with us, no gun. You don't fight a man that has nothing to defend him or herself. In other words, we are here to use our mouth and our presence to register our displeasure.
I think this man who is talking about not fighting a man that doesn't have a gun or have a knife in his hand and stuff like that, I think he's supposed to be talking to Buhari during the NSAS protest, and tell Buhari that, I remind Buhari of that. Because this thing could only happen under a good dispensation of the democratic, in our democratic space. Then in Nigeria in 2012, when a human being was actually the president, or the then president, Goodluck Jonathan, a real Democrat for that matter, is someone who actually have feelings and not those kind of hungry, blood hungry kind of leaders that we now had, after him, like Buhari, and now all of a sudden Tinubu. So which I hope maybe for whatever time limit that he have to rule, that he shows some, good quality of a good leader. So that's it.
In the way we are being governed, Nigerian people, oil subsidy is not only the matter. The matter is good governance. Give to a common man, give to an ordinary Nigerian what is rightly and truly belongs to them. Like I've said very many times in my music, ordinary Nigerians, they were not asking for money that will elevate them to become a car owner, whereby the problem of petroleum or whatever will be their problem. But they want a good life. Let government provide rail system, good road transportation, waterways transportation, good education, healthcare system. That is it.
You see, like you just said, you just named some basic infrastructures that the people actually need, that he think that will help, to cushion the effect of so many things, like good roads, good rail system, good waterways, etc. So, but these things are not actually the burden of the federal government alone. So definitely the state government can as well do that, even the local government, because, for example, in local government, let's say where I'm from, for example, there are so many things that a local government chairman can do, like pathways to the farm and stuff like that. You can do it. You don't have to be expecting the federal government to come and do that for you, or even expecting even the state government sometimes to come and do it for you. So there are things that even the community leaders do for themselves, like drainages, etc. So you don't expect everything to be done by the federal government. But this time around, they were putting everything and placing everything on the desk of the federal government without knowing that it will soon get to their turn. Now is the turn of Bola Tinubu. Let's see if he address his colleagues calling here, for you know, for this basic stuff. So, but what I know is that that will not be his business actually. So he's supposed to do the actual thing that he's supposed to do, which are the basics, the real basic stuff, on the national level. So why the other things that the states have to do, then maybe he too can even encourage the states to do that by him doing his own thing. But if the state governors sees that this man is so corrupt, like the past government that just left, or the man is just so laid back and doesn't actually care what is happening in the states and stuff like that, definitely, especially when they're from his party, definitely they start to, misbehave and do whatever thing they like, or start to lord over their own people, and do whatever thing that they feel like doing without a resolve to anything. So, but if they see that the man is on the right path and stuff, they be very, very mindful of what they do. So the same thing applies to the local government chairman. If their governor is very, very straight and upright, definitely the local government chairman and council chairman will be upright as well because they wouldn't know what to expect. So but if they go to party at night and they play around and fool around and stuff like that, and they say, hey, you can do anything you like and stuff like that, who cares? Or they see him the way he talks and stuff like that in a very careless and I don't care kind of mannerless way, definitely they will take it to the other level and stuff like that. So that's the way it goes in Nigeria. So it's not like the whole body have to be on the president or the president for now or the president as at that time. But that is how they were making us to believe that that is the way it ought to be. So that is it. But now it's their turn to face things. Let's see how they do.
If you give Nigerian electricity, that is providing them a enable environment to look for what they will use in carrying on with their life. We on our part, whatever I become today is on the side of the masses. Because when I make or produce an album, it is the general public that does that. They buy chunk of my work. They were the one that I relied on in the last 40 years of my musical career. Nigerian elites, listen and listen good.
It is not about subsidy. There can be no transformation without sacrifice.
So that is your man talking. That is Tinubu, Ahmed Tinubu himself in 2012. Challenging the then government of the day of Goodluck Jonathan in Lagos. So the man next to him is our very dear, late brother, Odumaki himself. So he was standing next to him there. So although later he was not, in line with what Tinubu stood for, but on this very issue, he was in line with that because he thought as at that time that it was not, the right time, for the removal of the fuel subsidy. So may so rest in peace. So, but as for Tinubu, you see him there. He said key corruption and not Nigerians. So let's see what he has to say.
They are not willing to sacrifice anything for this nation. They have got 25% of their basic salary. Their allowances are more than 1,000,000% of what they are cutting. Time has come for the people of Nigeria to rise and say enough. No.
Okay, that is Bakari, not Tinubu. They look alike. That's Pastor Bakari. That was the one talking there after that time. Let's see.
Enough! Enough! Let's face the fact, it's not about subsidy. Whether they remove the subsidy or not, we will still be in problem. If they remove subsidy, they will share the money. They have already shared it before collecting it. They said over 400 billion will go to Jonathan's government. Over 400 billion will go to state government. Over 200 billion will go to local government. They have already spent the money before they earn it. They are just pulling color day to come and supervise an empty collection. It's not going to work. It didn't work before. It's not working now. It's not going to work tomorrow. Great Nigerian people! Great Nigerian people! Great Nigerian people!
Okay. Thank you, man.
Yeah, that fuel was 15 naira at that time. So today, how much is it? 600 naira under Buhari and now Tinubu. So let's see who is killing Nigeria. You hear that? It's asking you if this is there light. This was in 2012 when there was actually a minimum, kind of let's say a dim. But now there's total darkness all over Nigeria. So who is talking now? Are they talking now? They are not. Because as at that time, they still have what do you call it, about 10,000 megawatts of electricity in Nigeria. Today, you can hardly have maybe up to 2,000, and yet they are the same people that were championing for the downfall of that same government at that time. So now they've been given 8 years, and that 8 years, it did not use it to add anything, to what the country should actually have. So
100 billion we go to local.
they did not use it for anything, to benefit the people. So the only thing they use it to do is just to loot, you know, the people's resources. So, but actually, I think Nigerians are actually not foolish. They are not stupid. They know what what is going on and what is playing out. So, but what is important is that knowing is not enough, but what you do afterward is actually what we actually decide. What that the thing that the people that we actually move things forward. For the people to to live on. Because right now there's no hope for the common man. Everybody just speaking grammar. Let me see what this man have to say about that also.
It's been expected. It's been, as I said before, the elephant in the room that's standing on all our heads, that's been there for many years. And the ability to get it done, the president has said it, and it's been done, and it's for us as Nigerians to try and live, to work through it, to make sure it's easy on all.
Well, the path to subsidy or the morning after subsidy seemed to be the issue. Really? Well, technically, everyone wants it out of the room, the elephant. But the question is, will it go through the window or through the door? Or we've got to we have to lift it with crane, whatever it is. So is this the silver bullet for the downstream sector?
It is the silver bullet. I think the analogy...
I thought you would say no.
No, it is. Look, it's lifting it with a crane and throwing it far away. I think Nigerians, we must step back to understand it. I think a proper explanation to Nigerians to understand. We are spending, as announced by NNPC, 400 billion naira a month.
Do you understand that? 400 billion naira a month for subsidy. For what? Do we actually see that? Or do we see the effect of that money that is being spent or wasted? The answer is no. So let me just take you on some issues on what actually we need. Because in order to have this subsidy removal, and effect the subsidy removal, we have to think about the implications also. So the implications of subsidy removal in Nigeria, like you know, it's a great deal. The implications of fuel subsidy removal in a developing country like Nigeria can have both positive and negative effects. You know, so we can touch on some of the effects. That we should expect because it's not about all these big grammar that they are speaking here and there. So the effects what are things that are going to be felt by the people and the economy itself. So government finances, remove fuel subsidies can alleviate the financial burden on the government. Subsidies often represent a significant portion of government expenditure, like and their removal can free up funds, which means these funds can be redirected into some other sectors and things like that. Like for example, the areas of let's say priorities and stuff. So things have to be reprioritized, like education, healthcare, infrastructures, and social welfare. You know, so because the poor people that you are taking this whole thing from, for example, all the populace and stuff, they need they need something in order for them to get a balance. If not, there'll be a revolution. In no time. So, like number two, let's say budget deficit reduction. Fuel subsidies contribute to budget deficit in many developing countries like Nigeria. By removing or reducing these subsidies, government can work towards narrowing their budget deficits, which can have positive implications for economic stability and long-term fiscal health. So you get that. So all this whole thing now, you know, all this whole thing now matters because you just come in here now speaking because sometimes they just speak grammars and grammars and grammars. Then the next day everybody just go into their own homes and stuff, and forget about the actual work that has to be done. And when you budget a certain amount of money to a ministry and stuff, then somebody is thinking of how to steal maybe half of the whole money, then leave the rest for the rest of the people to be shared. Not actually bother about what the money was used for. Let's say market efficiency, for example, subsidies distort market forces and can lead to inefficiencies. When fuel prices are artificially low due to subsidies, it said it can encourage overconsumption and fuel smuggling, which is what has been happening in Nigeria all this while. Removing subsidies allows market forces to determine prices, promoting efficiency and competition and rational consumption patterns. You know, so that is when people will start to think, hey, you know, this thing, if I do this, I'll be able to do this, I'll be able to do that and stuff like that. So all those wastages and stuff like that, will be minimized. You know, so and if for example like there's this subsidy and all the borders are open, in northwest and south, for example, and you still allow this whole these trucks, to leave Nigeria, you know, then what's the need? So that is exactly what has been going on during the Buhari's own regime. Trucks were going into the Niger Republic with Nigeria's fuel that were imported, from outside. Nigeria government pay for this fuel subsidy. It's like Nigeria pays 60% cost of that fuel this thing, and this thing was smuggled out of the country to go and be sold outside of the country, outside the borders of the country. Meanwhile, the borders in the south or in the west were closed. There was nothing coming in from Niger Republic, and nothing was going out of Nigeria. So that was a deliberate act that Buhari did. Whether to punish the south, I don't know. But the thing is that whatever thing that they do to try to punish the South and stuff, then the South swallows it. Then at the end of the day, our people spend their resources and stuff like that just to stay afloat. Then at the end of the day, now we have a new government, and everybody is like, oh, hope is here, and they are trying to move on. So, but I just hope that at the end of the day, then the court will be able to do justice to all the cases that has been in court so far. So, environmental impact, say fuel subsidies often is incentivized excessive use of fossil fuels, which contributes to environmental degradation and climate change. You see, by removing subsidies, there's a potential for decrease in carbon emissions and shift towards more sustainable energy source. This can align with global efforts to mitigate climate change and promote a greener economy. So, like Nigeria has not been talking about solar, solar energy and stuff like that, or wind energy, or some other energy, what do you call it, alternative energies and stuff like that. So it has always been about, fuel. We have coal, as far as I'm concerned. So many developed countries like even UK, Germany, and the rest, they still run their energy source, with coal mine. So, but in Nigeria, they've never even and what do you call mine the coal. Or for all these years, the coal mine has been abandoned over the years. Maybe there are some people who are just smuggling that coal mine out of Nigeria to some other neighboring countries. That I wouldn't know. But what I know is that everybody was concentrating on the fuel, you know the you know the gasoline, etc. So that has been the case with the crude oil and stuff like that, and the crude oil theft and things. So but I think the coal mine is still there. They are still in Enugu. So that that can still be used, maybe either by the state, if not by the federal, at least by the state, to fund their own this thing. So instead of them spending their money, on crude oil and stuff like that, maybe or petrol, maybe they can spend less on that while they use their fuel and their coal mine to generate their power. That can power their states. So I think that would be the case. That's why I always, you know, support the idea of having the states or regions, to do their own thing and try to, cut out or cover their energy sources and stuff. Because the money you are spending on all these things, actually, at the end of the day, you are paying heavy taxes on them. And where are these taxes going? And who are the people benefiting from these taxes? Are they your own people or they are outsiders? So use your resources if you know you have some resources that you can use that is cheaper for you. So those who want to, take the crude oil, for example, for the Niger Delta, to another part of the country, then they have to pay for the transportation and stuff like that. So it's not like we just give them a pipeline to be draining our oil, free of charge and stuff like that, and be using it. So they have to be able to pay, you know, pay for this. So that before this thing will get to the north or get to those locations, then definitely the prices will be higher as well. So maybe at the time they check that, then maybe they'll be looking for an alternative, to energy, either by through solar system and stuff like that, which is supposed to be much cheaper in the north as far as solar is concerned, because they have all this desert area and sun and stuff like that. So that is the issue here. So let's talk about another point that might, that are implications of this whole thing. So inflation and cost of living. Fuel subsidy removal can lead to an increase in fuel prices, which can subsequently drive up transportation costs and the cost of goods and services. This can have a direct impact on the cost of living for citizens, especially those with lower incomes. Government needs to implement supportive measures to mitigate the impact on vulnerable populations, which is the poor. Okay, another one is social unrest. Fuel subsidies are often seen as a form of social welfare, and their removal can lead to public discontent and social unrest. Increased fuel prices can disproportionately affect the poor and lower middle income earners, you know, who who heavily rely on affordable transportation for their daily needs. Government need to communicate the reasons behind subsidy removal, and that reason has to be very, very, very viable, or else there's no need to communicate. You know, so because I do tell the poor man now why the cost of his energy is going up, and yet there are no good roads, in his vicinity, to to alleviate some sufferings and hardship and things like that. And there's no light also, so which means he can't even power his own generator, and yet, with that cost that he's used to, in the meantime, and yet the government is not doing anything about it. It's not like there are even street lights and things like that. These are things that are actually not expensive. Let's say solar panels and stuff like that. All these things you can do them within a week or a month. Then before you know it, a street that has been dark for centuries will be lit up. You know, all you need is solar panels and batteries. That is it, and sunlight, which we have in excess. So, and the economic productivity, it says removing fuel subsidies can encourage investment in alternative energy source and promote energy diversification. This can stimulate, innovate, job creations, and economic growth in sectors related to renewable energy and clean technologies. So all these things we know. So it's not like these things are new to us. So, but we keep speaking all this grammar and beating around the bush, you know. So for some people, it's just about what they can benefit from all this whole thing, and nothing else. So at the end of the day, everybody will soon sleep and go back to their own homes, and the next thing they'll be inviting you for all kinds of parties and inauguration of one thing or the other. Then in no time, even if this man is allowed to stay there for more than 6 months, in no time before you know, they start to strategize, for the next elections and things like that. Then they forget about all this whole talk. So it is important to note that the implications can vary depending on the social contents, policy implementations, and accompanying measures taken by the government to address any potential negative impact. So if the government is not serious with this whole brouhaha and talk here and there, at the end of the day, this whole thing will just end there, just like that, and nothing else we give. So what else can you do? If the people comes out and decide they want to demonstrate because they are not comfortable with this whole thing, then the next thing you know, then they start to accuse oppositions and stuff that the problems are the oppositions, that they are the ones causing the problem and not the government of the day. So, but ladies and gentlemen, let's keep our fingers crossed and watch out for this whole episode that's about to play out. So if this government is not ready, then we know what to do. So, but in the meantime, this government, like we know, it's not the government that the people voted for, because everything has been proven, to show that. So, but we're only just waiting for the court to make their declaration and pronouncement on this whole issue and make the whole thing legal, or make this government either legal or illegal, or make this government either legitimate or illegitimate. That's it. So, because the whole things that follow this government into the office of the president that it is now, is it's not encouraging, because if it's allowed to stand, definitely that country will never grow. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming by. Give us a thumbs up. You know, drop your comments on our on our site, on our platform, and let us know what we have to do and differently for what we are doing. You know, presently. So that is it for now. So share our videos and stay blessed. God bless you.